So I got the question the other day. What do you mean by energy? And I love that question because it puts into perspective how if you're not in the spiritual realm or into like quantum physics, manifestation, consciousness, that whole orb of stuff, you probably view energy as like energy drinks or perhaps like batteries, different types of plants depending on like what like chemical plants, nuclear plants, like that type of energy. It could really mean a lot of different things. I've also gotten the question like potential or kinetic. So let's break this down. When I talk about energy, and when anyone in the spiritual realm talks about energy, they're talking about a vibe. I think that's the easiest way to explain it, and it makes sense because it's a vibration. Vibe is short for vibration. Everything is energy. Everything is a vibration. Everything has a frequency. And when you start to view the world in this way, that everything is energy. What I mean by everything, I literally mean everything. So this pen carries an energy. Your phone carries an energy. The camera that I'm shooting this on carries an energy. The wall next to me carries an energy. And that energy is going to be different than the wall over there. Not necessarily, but like it could. So when you're viewing the world as everything has an energy, and you begin to think about how energy attracts energy, you start to think, okay, well, if I hold an energy, if I hold a frequency, and everything else holds a frequency, when something comes into my life, it matches that frequency, or it has to get out, right? Essentially, you attract in the things that you have. Literally everything around you. You attract in based on the frequency that you hold. And this is where a lot of people get into manifestation because they like the idea of being able to attract in what they're looking for. A lot of this time, though, this is where I think it's fascinating because as someone that has been down this rabbit hole for as long as I have, and I've tried a lot of different things, I see an issue from a spiritual lens where if you are purely manifesting without consciousness, it's going to backfire. It's going to backfire because here's the thing. Everyone has a soul. And the way it works is when a soul enters into a human vessel, they've already determined the lessons that they want to learn in this lifetime. They already determined how they want to evolve. The question, this is where you have free will. The question is, how willing will you within your vessel be to learning these lessons? Or how hard will you make them for yourself to be learned? How many times are you going to go through the same lesson because you refuse to break a pattern? It's funny because I was actually reading a book about money, and it's called The Laws of Wealth. And it basically talks about how a lot of the times we understand that when you buy a stock, you try and hold it long term. However, whenever a market crashes, we get this insane emotional spike to get rid of the thing, despite the fact that we know buy low, sell high. When these prices are starting to tank, suddenly we're like, well, we don't want them. Even though we know that the market always has the regression to the mean. It goes back to average, at least. The same concept is true with the way that we handle patterns in our real life. When you have a certain emotional pattern, it is a pattern. You're looking at someone and you're like, I already know what they're going to do next. The issue is that you are doing the exact same thing. you are just as predictable as that other person, and that's why you guys are in a loop. Unless you know how to act different, unless you choose to try to act different, you will stay in that loop. So it's how willing are you to experiment with a different solution. So I say all this to say that karma exists for a reason. What goes around comes around. You will have to learn the lesson. When you manifest something and you're not conscious about what you're manifesting, meaning, let's say you want money, why do you want money? Are you purely doing it so that way other people think you have power? Are you purely doing it so that way you can buy a bunch of things for yourself? Until you've actually learned the true value of money, that manifestation is going to bite you in the ass. It's going to come back around and you're going to be like, oh. So it may not last, because here's the thing. This is where we get into more energy and how it goes through the family lines. So here's the thing. Generational trauma is very much so a thing, because what is trauma? It's energy. That energy is what gets passed through lineage when you're born, because here's the thing. The egg and the sperm both carry energies from your parents. That means that their trauma is within those two entities. Your mom's womb also carries trauma. A lot of the time, women pass down generational trauma. A lot of the time, trauma gets stored in the hips, whereas the uterus right next to the hips. So when you think about all of this, you start to realize, oh, that energy just consistently gets passed down in this family until someone decides to do something different. So when you go to manifest, understand that you should use manifestation wisely. You should use manifestation. It's almost like when you have a genie, and the genie says you can have 3 wishes. You might get those wishes. Think about Aladdin. He says, make me a prince. Make me a prince, and that's how I'll get the princess. And that didn't work for him now, right? Because guess what? Homegirl didn't want a prince. She said, oh, you guys are icky mucky. I don't like that. And she kept trying to get him to admit that he was the peasant from the marketplace. Right? So that didn't go as planned for him. He got what he wanted, but that wasn't what Jasmine wanted. So that wouldn't have worked. And in the end, he didn't need to be a prince in order to get Jasmine, because the father said, I make the rules. I can just change the rules so you don't have to marry a prince, because he's already showed that he has more integrity and character than any of these other princes. And that was the whole point of marrying a prince. So you'll find that if you don't do the work on the trauma, if you don't manifest healing of different types of trauma, then you're not setting yourself up for long-term success, because you're going to get the thing that you thought that you wanted, and then it's going to completely spin out of whack. You're going to be like, oh, I guess that is what I ordered. I guess I need to be more specific next time. That's how that's going to go. And that's why I think it's really important to understand the laws of energy, because as we get into this next phase of consciousness with people, I think a lot of people view manifestation as a form of consciousness. And while it's a part of consciousness, it does not equate to consciousness. If you do not understand the intentions behind your energy, it's not going to work well. It's not going to work well. You have to you have to almost be viewing your life from a third party perspective. Until you are to the place where you're having a conversation with someone and they start feeling an extreme emotion, until you have the ability to be standing there and then kind of just like floating up here almost and just watching it and like accepting that you don't have to react to their intense emotions, you're not conscious. You're not conscious. Consciousness is being able to deliberately choose to respond in every situation instead of react. So when I say that energy is the most valuable currency, it's because when you understand the way that energy works, and because everything is energy, that means if you understand energy, you understand money. If you understand energy, you understand love. If you understand energy, you understand everything, in theory. But do you get the point of what I'm saying? Is that there's so many people, especially like founders, entrepreneurs, like people who are leaders, that focus really, really hard on achieving one thing. But you can tell that they didn't go about it in a healthy way. They spiritually bypassed a lot of stuff in order to get to where they were. So when they get there, they find that they're not fulfilled. They find that something is off. Either they never knew how to do personal relationships, they never learned how to do familial relationships. There's a lot of things along the way that they bypassed. And now they're like, oh, well, I got the thing, and, well, it didn't do what I thought it would do. And that's why, again, it's important to understand energy. Because if you understand energy, you can understand how to build sustainably. Understanding that energy is not just the things around you, but you can use energy in strategic ways. So, for example, astrology, human design, destiny matrices, all of those types of tools are fantastic for understanding your own energy. Because what is consciousness? It's your understanding of yourself. And if you want to get into it an extra layer, consciousness is understanding yourself. But you are the universe experiencing itself. The more that you understand you, the more that you understand the world, the more that you understand everyone else. So when you're going through these charts and you're understanding the lessons that you're supposed to learn, you begin to understand your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, how your vessel works. You can use those as cheat codes in order to be able to figure out the lessons that you're learning and make it easier on yourself. Instead of feeling like, oh my God, life is happening to me, you can be like, I expected this. I see the way that this is applicably being tested on me. How this lesson is manifesting. I can see that. And when you can see it, when you're conscious of it, you're able to respond instead of react. So when people want to say that astrology is a bunch of hoopla, no, it's not. Energy is real. Vibrations are real. If you think about how much the moon affects us, and we have so much proof about the way that the moon affects us, you don't think that larger, more energetically dense planets wouldn't have the same effect. That's a choice. That's a choice to not believe that, but it's detrimental if you want to be able to evolve and actually reach a level of consciousness. And I'm going to tell you, the universe rewards you when you're conscious. It's good karma to be conscious. As long as when you're conscious, you're making ethical decisions, I should say. If you're making unethical decisions, regardless, you are going to get fucked at some point in your life. It's just true. And if you don't get fucked in this life, you're setting yourself up for failure in the next life. And that's gonna suck too. If you're viewing, what I'm gonna say is easy, what makes life easier is the whole point of life, again, is consciousness. What is consciousness? It's in the 5D. It's in the 5D. The 3D is just the world around you. 5D is universal consciousness. So when you're looking at this and you're trying to navigate where, I forgot where I was going with this. 5D versus 3D. Oh, right. So when you're looking at this and you're viewing 5D versus 3D, 3D is the ego. 3D is the ego. It's the pride. It's the, I'm not going to do this because, that's the vibe that the ego has. The 5D is just like, got it. I understand what's happening. I'm chill. I'm cool. I'm cool, calm, collected. And when you get into the 5D, you begin to realize, like, oh, this lifetime that I'm living right now, in a grand scheme of things, is like 1 year in my 20s. As in, each lifetime you could view as a different year in your soul's evolution. Like this, I don't know how else to say it. Where you're at in this lifetime is 1 year for your soul's evolution. That's not like truly true, but when you start thinking about it that way, where it's like, oh my gosh, I have so many chapters. Like, if you want to think of this as a chapter instead of a year in your life, it's like, this is only chapter 2. There are like 20 other chapters. And this chapter affects all those other 20 chapters. And all the souls and the people that I meet in this lifetime, they're going to keep showing up. It could be 20 chapters, it could be 200 chapters, it could be 1,000 chapters. Who knows how many times our soul has come and gone. The point is that if your main goal is soul evolution, if you're thinking so micro that you're like, this relationship matters so much in this moment, it matters so much in this moment, I can't possibly hurt this person, you need a reframe. It's so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. And whenever you start to realize this, you can actually start to evolve, because you're like, you know what? I did a different solution, and now I can move on. And if that wasn't the right solution, it'll come back. It'll come back in the same way that things that are meant for you do not miss you. Things that you did not learn will keep coming around. Another aspect of energy to consider is divine masculine energy and divine feminine energy. Now, everyone holds both energies. So, regardless of if you're a man or a woman, you have both masculine and feminine energies. And when you have divine masculine energy and divine feminine energy, and they actually are working together, that is how you are sovereign, right? Because each energy holds something different. So in the ways that you think about males, it's protective energy. It's provider energy. That's where you get your boundaries, right? Feminine energy is soft. I get to receive, I get to nurture. Every single person needs those qualities to be married within them in order for them to have the best possible relationships outside of them. Because now you're no longer needing anybody. You're understanding the concept of like, I need to protect myself with boundaries. And if this person doesn't respect my boundaries, then they're probably not for me. They're not at the same energetic level. They're not at the same frequency. Now, when you drop those boundaries, you've just become on their level. Is that the frequency that you want to stay at? No. So you're going to be like, hey, this is my boundary. If you will not respect it, I gotta go. It doesn't have to be a personal attack on the other person. It's just kind of like, we disagree. We fundamentally disagree on what's happening here. We're not gonna come to an agreement. Not at this moment in time. We need to go energetically, go our separate ways, work on our different things, and then if it's a match, we will be back. Right? So, whenever you're kind of like, am I sovereign? Am I fully conscious? Think about your masculine and your feminine. How well are you providing for yourself? How well are you nurturing yourself? How well are you receiving and welcoming other people? Those are all things to consider. These are just a few ways that you can view energy and start to begin to understand energy, because it truly is the most valuable currency out there. And if you're not studying it, if you're not learning it, it's hindering you. It's like someone saying, hey, I have the test answers, and you being like, yeah, I'm actually just not going to study. That's wild. That's wild. Anyways, I think I'm going to leave it there for today. But I hope this was helpful. I hope it was interesting. I hope you got something out of it, because I had a fun time explaining it. So if this was helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have anything to add or you have any questions, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. Obviously, subscribe if you're into this type of stuff, because I'm going to keep talking about it. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. Okay, love you, bye. Mwah.